Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 127. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and this is Friday afternoon, September 13th, Friday the 13th, 2024. Thanks so much for joining me. Some of you are, I think, new subscribers, which I'm so happy to have you. And all of my returning viewers and friends and subscribers, of course, I'm always happy to have you. And thanks for your recent comments and all of that. Now, I think some of you missed the fact that there was a galloping horse video last Thursday. It was posted. I'm just turning the volume off on my computer. Last Thursday, which was Cindy and me, as usual, in Galloping Horse. And Cindy's daughter, Emma, was our special guest. And let me just say, I think we had a blast. And Emma's such a delightful person. If you didn't see that, even if you're not interested in quilting, you might enjoy just the fun that we had. And if you are interested in quilting, then hopefully you'll find something there in that field that you're interested in. But today is Flosstube and Variety Show, and Flosstube means cross stitch, and Variety Show means something else. So let's start with cross stitch, with Flosstube cross stitch. Last weekend, I didn't make a Flosstube video. The previous weekend was the first weekend of the month, which is Blackbird Designs Stitch Along, Weekend Stitch Along, BBD Weekend Sal, and I've been working on Mighty Acorn. I thought I was going to get farther on this, but pardon me, I'm going to make a loud noise, reaching a chair. Sorry, that's a terrible sound. But I didn't get farther, but, you know, I made progress. So up here, there's some more doodad, vine-ish stuff. There's another big leaf and another acorn and some more vine-ish stuff. And then there's some small things to finish in the border, but it's pretty close. I don't know if I would be able to finish it in one more weekend, but maybe. Now, down at the bottom, right here is supposed to be a year, and here are supposed to be my initials. And I'm sort of envisioning this as a birth sampler, or in honor of the birth of a baby. And so, until I decide who it's for, I might not put anything in those spots and just see what happens. I don't know. Who knows? This is Margaret Hutton. Does it have a year? Surprised it doesn't. Anyway, this was the workshop piece from the Queen City Sampler Guild workshop in Cincinnati this past May. And it featured Nicola Parkman teaching specialty stitches, which there are a lot in that. And it's Sampler September, so I felt I really should work on it. So I've done a few more letters and carried some of the horizontal bands farther along. And I've been working on the outside border. And in particular, I've been working on the four-sided stitch letters. And Nicola taught that as capable of being a reversible stitch, where it's four-sided stitch on the front and a cross stitch on the back. And I mostly was able to figure that out. The problem is not each individual stitch. The problem is how to go from stitch to stitch when you're going along the shape of a letter. But it certainly looks fine from the front. I'm pleased with that. And I also want to get back into the eyelet stitches because I just love eyelets, but I want to watch the video because being able to follow a path around so that I don't end up crossing my thread across the eyelet opening, which is the point of that stitch, I want to revisit the video, but I'll get there. Those videos are available to the people who attended that workshop for 1 year for free. And then after that, they're not available. And so I do feel I need to fully acquaint myself with how those stitches work before 1 year is up. So I also worked on sampler 193, and I'm not going to show you the picture because you can tell exactly what it's going to look like from how much I have done. I clearly am working down there in the center of the bottom. I was hoping to get to having fewer than 5,000 stitches left, but I have 5,024 stitches left. I just couldn't find the time to do an extra 24 stitches. And interestingly too, I have 5 skeins of floss left of what I purchased, and I really don't remember how many skeins I purchased, so I don't know if I'm gonna make it without having to buy another skein of floss. I would think so. I'll try to notice. So Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather is my full coverage piece I've been giving some focus to. I've only done about 600 stitches since the last time I showed it to you, actually, even though that's been a while. But because I decided to show it, even though it isn't very many stitches, because you can actually see that arch taking shape with where I've been working. So I'm going to carry on, of course. I don't know if I'm going to make my goal this year. I probably am not going to make my goal of getting it within shooting distance of finishing it next year. I mean, it's possible, but don't know. Don't know about that. And then also in honor of Sampler September, I've been working on the ABC sampler, which is another Hands Across the Sea piece. This is free. In the description field beneath this video, you'll see how to get at it from Nicola's Flosstubes. So you can download the chart, and then she has videos that explain how to do the specialty stitches, which is what this sampler is about. So far I've done 4 sections of specialty stitches, which is this running stitch, the herringbone, running back stitch, and I would call it a half cross stitch down there. And those are, I mean, the herringbone was the most complicated of those, and I so enjoyed doing that. Now, if you were to look closely, which I'm not going to let you, you would notice that there's a mistake, but I'm not going to fix it. It's fine. So I've been carrying the letters along in order to be able to anchor the next set of specialty stitches, and I'll keep working on that a little bit at a time. It's a whole different set, not a whole different set, but largely a different set of stitches than is in Margaret Hutton. And Nicola's goal with this is that so she not only teaches the stitches that are in this sampler, but she teaches variations on them that are common in samplers. And her thought is that we would make our own little set of diagrams and maybe stitched sample of each of the types, and then we would have a little reference item of our own for when we encounter these stitches in the future. And I haven't been doing that, but I think I've been learning the stitches pretty well. And I think that that's what I've worked on in the past 2 weeks. Now, I was gone for 4 days, Sunday through Wednesday, which I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And I did a fair amount of sewing rather than cross-stitching also these past couple of weeks. But this weekend, the weekend that starts, shall we say, today, it's Friday after all, is the 3rd weekend of the month, which is Nativity Sal. And I'm going to show you this as a preview. I am 616 stitches, well, maybe 700 stitches away from finishing this. I hesitate to say 616 because there's a lot of stars that I have to put in the sky up there. And the last time I showed this, I noted that I haven't stitched the baby Jesus there in the manger, and there's also a long stitch star that appears there in the pattern. Oh, I should show you the pattern. Bethlehem by Diane Arthurs. And I asked your opinion about stitching Jesus in gold, maybe. I got a lot of interesting comments. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but this is the weekend. I hope to finish this. That's my intention. 600 stitches I should be able to do. 700 stitches, even though some of it involves counting out in the middle of nowhere, I should be able to do. And I am carrying my threads for the stars in the sky. That's what the back looks like back there. Because I think this fabric is plenty dense to not let that show through. And because I'm not going to pin stitch isolated stitches. It's just not me. So I hope that this will be a finish the next time I make a video, which should be next week. And frankly, I am so committed to this being a finish that I might finish it, even if it takes me beyond Monday. We'll say Monday is the end of the weekend. So that is, hopefully, will be a finish really soon. Now, I've been on the lookout for a stained glass window cross stitch. And I actually have been on the lookout for one that would remind me of the stained glass windows in the house that my mother grew up in, that I lived in from 7th grade until I got married. And I finally found one. Now the house, I've shown you a picture before of the cross stitch I did of the house, which I'll stick a picture of that cross stitch in here. It's a Victorian era house. It was built in 1887, very large house. And on the landings, so you go up the stairs, but you know, not a curved stairway, but a stairway like that had a bend in it. At that landing, which is midway between the first and second floors, there were some stained glass windows. And then between the second floor and the third floor, which was technically the attic, there were some stained glass windows. And that was the south-facing wall of the house. And so the light always shone through there. And so I was always interested in cross-stitch that would be reminiscent of those stained glass windows. I couldn't find pictures of the windows. I feel sure that I must have pictures somewhere. But I did find this. And this is very reminiscent of that, of those windows. And this was from Stitchery Design on Etsy. And there's a lot of stained glass things on Etsy, but a lot of it is more modern or more, I'll say, stylized. And this really does remind me of Victorian era stained glass in that house and in other places. Now it's full coverage. It's not huge. It's 155 by 210, but I'm not going to start it soon. I need to finish Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather and a lot of other things before I would start that, like the tiger piece. Remember the tiger piece? You probably don't. I have a tiger piece going. The other thing that I just learned something or found out about. So as I think I mentioned, Leslie and I are going to go to the 3rd installment of the Great British Sampler Weekend, except they're now calling it Mrs. Parkman's Academy of Needlework. Next October, a year from now, in Swindon, Great Britain. And that event is going to include not only whatever the main projects are, but also some workshops that happen before that event begins. And I signed up for 2 of the workshops, and the pre-workshop project was sent out just a couple days ago. And I can show you the cover of it. So the workshop is going to be how to finish this into this little folded hussif. which is, it's folded, it's going to have pockets in it and designs, and you stitch it on a length of linen, and some of it you stitch right side up, and some of it you stitch upside down. Some of it you stitch with the front of the linen facing you, and some of it you stitch the other way, so that you can fold it up and it will all look at, be facing the correct direction. And in this, there are also, the pockets are lined. She recommends lining them with a Dupioni silk, which, as you may know, is that knobby silk. Well, I don't happen to have any, but I knew Cindy probably did. In fact, I know she does. She has a huge roll of sort of a aqua colored Dupioni silk, dark aqua, as I recall. So I asked her, do you have any Dupioni silk? And she said, yes, I have something you would probably really like that you can have. It was left over from something. So she gave me this. Isn't that just, I can't stop looking at it, frankly. And she had a piece of white satin that we held it up to, and as she said, we're about to have a seizure. It was just so beautiful. So interestingly, this project calls for a fat quarter of it, which I find amazingly a lot for what I imagine the size of the project is going to be. And that's about what I have here. It has some things cut out of it because she made something. She bought it to make something, and this is the leftover. But I think it's going to be plenty. Now, the colors in this, I'm going to have to do something about the raveling of it also. But the colors in this are not red. But I think I'm going to use it anyway, because I think it would be really striking to open the little pocket and have this brilliant red pop out. I might also cut the pieces that would be the right size from the other silk she has, which is a little more, I would say, muted color than this. Everything is more muted than this, right? But that's just spectacular. So this is something I've got to get stitching on. It is supposed to be stitched on 32 count linen. Looking for the stitch count of it. I know it's here somewhere. It's something like 300 stitches long by 80 stitches wide or something. So it feels like it's large, but there's a lot of blank areas that are not stitched because they're the backs of something. And there isn't a stitch count along the edge, but there's some back stitching and some French knots in the designs. There's a lot of different designs. There's an alphabet. So anyway, got to get moving on stitching that. Or actually first, selecting fabric. I'm not sure I have 32 count fabric, but I will be going to Hobby House Needleworks in about 4 weeks, Leslie. So I'll buy something there if I don't already have something. So what else do I want to talk about? I have my notes open. I have another workshop I signed up for, which is by Ray Niles. And I showed you a sampler that I bought that she released this past spring at Market. And her workshop is in designing your own sampler, which sounds pretty good to me. I think that's what it's about. I think so. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have details about that yet. So what else? So where I was from Sunday to Wednesday night was at Cherokee, North Carolina, which I say Cherokee, North Carolina, but it is actually native lands. So I don't know if technically it's just called Cherokee, But anyway, there's a casino there, and I went with some friends that I've been before. And we go, this will be the third time I've been there. The first time was December 2019, I think. And then it was December 2022. So, or maybe it was December 2023. It might have been just last year. And then just this past week. So, you know, we go once a year or less and stay in the hotel. It's a large casino, you know, full service casino. It has gaming tables as well as slot machines. And I do the slot machines. And I go with a set amount of money that I think my entertainment is worth for the time that I plan to spend there. And when we're not in the casino floor, which is most of the time we're not in the casino floor, we play games in the hotel room. And so we played a number of games, Settlers of Catan and Dominion. Those, of course, kind of famous games. And we played some games which I call small games. And so what I did is I left, instead of putting everything away, I left out 3 small games that are based on dice that I took with us. We actually only played one of them, but Fill or Bust I have mentioned before on this channel. And by small, I mean that can easily fit in your suitcase. It doesn't take up very much space. Fill or Bust, we love this game. This was a gift to our first encounter with it was 24 years ago to Scott when he was 6. Scott was able to play a game. This says ages 9 to adult. He totally understood the odds part of playing this game when he was 6 because math is his mother tongue. And so we played this game a lot with him growing up, and it is sort of the game. If you come to our house more than once, then at least one of those times we will play this game together. It's like Farkle, but with cards that force certain decisions or limit certain decisions. And the thing about it is, it's a game that if somebody is a latecomer, they can just join in. There is really, you can't be too late to start playing the game. So it's a great game from that standpoint. So another game that I took with me, which we didn't play, but is very easy to play, is this game called Splitter. And this game is where you roll dice and you have to mark the values of the dice on your score pad, which is included. You know, it's a unique score pad based on symmetry. So if you mark one die in a particular square, then across the midline of the puzzle, you have to mark the other die. And you're trying to get combinations, things in a line or in a row, column, that will score you points, is the goal of the game. So you could end up, you know, being forced to snooker yourself, as it were, and not get the optimal score because of the spaces that you left open, hoping for something. But as you know, dice is a random number generator. So we didn't actually play this, but it is a fun game. We've played it before. But the game we played that they had not played, oddly, that we were just all enjoyed was this game, Quicks. QWIXX. And this is a game, it's called a fast family dice game, and that's a good description of it. It has white and colored dice. And it all fits neatly in this box. And so, of course, at this moment, I can't get that last die out. Here we go. White and colored dice. And you roll all of them, and you mark the totals on this score sheet. Again, a unique score sheet just for this game. And you, once you've marked a number, you can't mark left of it. You have to move from left to right across the thing, but you can skip. So this is an example of a score sheet. Is this mine? Probably. Looks like it. Don't know. Might not be. And the idea is that in the yellow, I marked this, and then I next marked this. So even if I had the opportunity to mark one of these in yellow, I wasn't allowed to do it because I already skipped those. And then you score points based on how many marks in a row that you get. Not what values they were, but how many in the row you get. And then there's a penalty. You have to take a penalty if you can't mark something according to the rules and limitations of the game. And we really enjoyed it and played it a few times. And so much so, over the years, we've played it so much so that I decided I better order some more of the score pads because we're getting a little bit low. So this game is listed as 2 to 5 players. I suppose that's right. I suppose it wouldn't go very well for more than 5. I think it could stretch to 6. I can't see why it couldn't. But it's very quick. You can play a game of it. It says 15 minutes. I would say that's right. I would say we played it maybe an hour and a quarter. We probably played 4 or 5 games. And it's also pretty easy to learn. It isn't necessarily easy to learn the best moves, but it's easy to learn how the mechanics of the game work, which I think is the hallmark of a good game. And especially a game that you're going to take that you want to be very portable. The only thing you have to add to what's in the box is pencils to mark on these score pads. And let's see, would they fit? I think you could probably fit a set of golf pencils in here. Now we had pencils. I always have pencils, so I pulled pencils out of my backpack. And it has a magnetic closure. Cute. There's also a deluxe version of the game, which comes with whiteboard style score sheets instead of paper that you use up, that it's used and done, which that may seem like that's a good move. I personally don't like those. And here's why. One is because you have to have the markers that work on them, and inevitably somebody doesn't cap their marker enough and then it dries out. So you have to maybe have backup whiteboard markers always available. That's a little bit hard to guarantee. Also, it's a bigger format. In terms of being a small game, it doesn't match that. But in terms of being a version of Quicks, which is a good game no matter what the size, the format makes it not suited for what I had in mind, but it's still a good game. So needing to have whiteboard markers that work. The second thing is that the whiteboard surface on each of the reusable game scoring things has to be clean, which may seem, well, of course, why would it not be clean? Well, think about what you're usually doing if you're playing games with a group of people. You're usually eating snacks. And unless the snack that you're eating is only pretzels, which has no greasiness to it, you're going to have grease on your fingers. And if you touch that board with greasy fingers and don't absolutely clean it thoroughly, the whiteboard marker won't write on it. So that's another reason I don't like whiteboard markers for games of this sort where everybody's keeping their own. And the third reason is because when you reach across the table to pick up the dice, you can brush your arm against your score thing, and then you don't know what was on there. You could accidentally erase it. So even though that seems like it might be a good move and a better way to, reduce the ongoing cost of playing a game that has a unique, specialized score sheet, I actually prefer to buy the score sheets. Now, I've also known of people who create score sheets using their computer. And in theory, you could do that. I'm trying to find a blank one, just because it's less confusing. So in theory, you could do that. But there's a lot of information here. And somebody who loves Excel, as I do, might find it fun to recreate those. But then you have to print them. And once you've printed them, you have spent some money on paper and on colored toner. And I think really in the end, it's more satisfying to just buy another set of score sheets. And it helps the manufacturer of the game know that the game is popular, and they will keep it in print so that you could buy copies of it to give to all your friends for Christmas, which is another thing that I think is worthwhile. So those are the reasons I don't really like games that have the reusable whiteboard style score sheet things. There is a game called Wits and Wagers, which we've played with friends. I don't own it, but it uses the whiteboard style things, and we haven't actually had trouble with those, partly because you're just writing one number on them. I think you're just writing a number. Or maybe you're writing an answer. I can't remember what you're writing, but whatever it is, it's quite small amount of writing, so that doesn't bother me as much. I should say, we haven't had trouble with that. There is still the question of whether your whiteboard markers are going to work, dry erase markers. But anyway, so those are just a few games. You know, the variety show, I did 2 weeks in a row on books, which is unusual for me to do the same topic 2 weeks in a row, but I'm pretty sure I've done games more than 1 week at a stretch. It's one of my favorite things to do and to talk about. And I love playing games and helping people learn to play games, learn specific games. So that is what's been going on. We are having a lovely rainy day. It's quite late in the afternoon when I'm recording this, and I sort of thought that I was going to record early, but I was hoping the rain would stop and the sun would come out and make it more bright, but it didn't, and it isn't, and I think that's fine. So meanwhile, friends, I hope that you have a good weekend coming up. Nativity Sal. You can join in with that. Use that hashtag. Tag me on Instagram. Teresa is doing that usually, right, Teresa? And Leslie occasionally. Third weekend of every month, working on a Christmas-themed or holiday-themed piece. Does not have to have a religious component to it to fit Nativity Sal, in my opinion. You can do as you like. Your mileage may vary, but we would love to have you join. Just be sure to tag me, I think, because hashtags are a little hard to find, but you'll find the hashtag in the description field, along with the things that I've mentioned in this video. I always put the things I mention. I hope that you have a great week, and I will see you again next week. Thanks so much for watching, and many blessings to you, friends.